Have you had instances of sexual harassment in the workforce? Does sexual harassment grow? Has there been any retaliatory behavior? The truth is, many workplaces in our industry, the value system leans very much towards a men-controlled patriarchal ecosystem, very much like a boys' club. Although it has been illegal for almost 40 years to hire and fire based on acceptance of sexual advances on their employees, it's obviously still going on. With an absence of clear standards of what levels of bad conduct should be acceptable, the question remains, when are enough assaults, physical and emotional, truly enough? I'm going to speak about a friend who recently was fired from her television production job for bringing attention to the years of sexual harassment she has endured and the retaliatory actions that followed. And for young aspiring content creators and filmmakers joining the ranks of the new Hollywood generation, this directly applies to you. All that coming up. Welcome to Hollywood Unapologetic. My name is Orlando Delbert. I wanted to speak a little bit about filmmaking essentials, sexual harassment in Hollywood and its patriarchal ecosystem, retaliatory actions, and how it applies to the new Hollywood generation. I should mention before we get into it, I first wrote about some of what we're about to touch upon, success in filmmaking and life, and how it applies as part of the new Hollywood generation when I was writing Pollyanna's Tear-Soaked Battlefields of Hollywood, Survival Guide Against the Cynicism and the Hypocritical. We want to know your questions, comments, and suggestions you may have. Please write them below, leave a thumbs up if you like what you see. Make sure to click on the subscribe button. Click that bell so you don't miss anything. Be sure to check out the videos in the playlist. New to film production? Start here. Be sure to watch all the way through. We're going to speak about a lot of things as part of being prepared. Remember, preparation is the key to you and your project's success. You ready? Recently, a longtime friend was fired from a show she has been working on for 10 years. Although she may have been known for being the voice of the series on camera, her duties range from writing and producing to picture cutting and directing as well. For her tenure there, she fell victim to sexual harassment from her male co-workers. And like many workplaces in our industry, the value system leans very much towards a men-controlled patriarchal ecosystem, very much like a boys' club. As time went by, the sexual harassment grew, and so did retaliatory behavior. She went to her union with no resolve, and as a way to get back at her, the senior staff made it more difficult for her to do her job by in part going out of their way to not have resources available until right before deadlines were due. She had little support and in many ways became a one-woman show. But as so many individuals who land a decent work situation in our industry puts up with the toxicity that comes along with it. And for any of you who has had to do the everyday grind to find work in the Hollywood trenches knows firsthand, when a somewhat steady situation comes along, take it and do what you can to stick it out. And like so many like her who took the job initially because she thought she may be able to make a difference to the community, it also gave her time to pursue her acting and modeling endeavors, both of which have been fulfilling. Aside from being casted in several A-list motion pictures by prominent film directors, she is also an award-winning motion picture director. And speaking of which, she has a body of work that spans decades. When she first began working there, she was given permission to work on her own projects on her off time. Well, when she was discarded, the senior staff kept onto her personal hard drives, which not only housed previous feature films she's produced and directed, but also current projects set in motion. This type of retaliatory behavior is not at all uncommon in our industry, and it's for several reasons. For weak producers, their whole trip is about controlling everyone else. And if you've ever held a job anywhere in the Hollywood business of show, you would have witnessed the enormous amount of the yellers, as I call them, yelling at anyone and everyone as they possibly can to belittle their subordinates. They're in the production offices, post-production facilities, sitting next to you in the traffic, on the 405 yelling into their mobile phones at some poor production assistant about having their coffee ready or about them picking up their dry cleaning or dog shit. There are many facets of the entertainment industry where the use of intimidation runs rapidly, and some of these yellers use intimidation as a control tactic. Some producers use it to dispense fear. Many yellers, many of you will come across in your travels, capitalize on wielding intimidation as a tool. When I first wrote about the yellers and about Hollywood's boys' club over a decade ago, I knew of some instances from personal friends and from a few inappropriate advances towards me. There were stories to be found online. This is definitely not industry-wide, nor do I want to imply that, but it is seen enough that some may believe it is part of the culture. Without a doubt, there is a sense of desperation all over Los Angeles. And once you are working in some of the production and post-production offices and sweatshops, this dynamic can be seen firsthand. This is where one can see how being replaced in the workplace is very common, quite easily done. And this is where the yellers capitalize their efforts to keep everyone around them at bay. And make matters worse, the handful of stories that have been shared with me range from sexual harassment, stalking, physical rape, and even hate crimes. And today, in the age of the Me Too and Time's Up movements, these types of behaviors seem to be far more widespread than I previously thought. Fragile egos feed a need to control others they may view as being weak or a threat. Throwing a high per diem and salary, and even a German car, maybe a rail or two of cocaine for some, and it all helps give some holding the keys, the go-ahead for bad behavior. And unfortunately for some, the bad behavior leads to verbal and even physical abuse. Does my speaking about sexual harassment in Hollywood sound familiar? Has the Me Too and Time's Up movements cast a light on your workplace? Do you have coworkers or managers that capitalize on wielding intimidation as a tool? If it does, write hashtag New Hollywood Generation in the comments below. That's hashtag New Hollywood Generation. Without getting into more detail or telling who my friend is, I will respect her privacy. But I've mentioned all this because this is somewhat common in our industry. The entertainment industry is very much a boys' club. For the most part, men hold most of the power positions and some take it too far. A few take it upon themselves to behave inappropriately. I'll share a story I was told by a female friend many years ago. At the time, Tracy worked as an assistant to a well-known producer. Almost daily and sometimes more than once a day, he would masturbate at her. He would hurry out of his office while he was climaxing and let things fly upon reaching her desk. Tracy acted as though nothing ever happened, which I'm sure helped motivate him in some ways. She kept quiet because she needed the job. At least, that was how it was rationalized to me. Another story I heard about years ago. An actor on a series walked up to a female writer, the only writer on the whole staff if I'm not mistaken, and put his limp penis on her shoulder to get a laugh. I mean, come on, really? She was a writer and knew if she pursued it legally, it would have ended her career. Now, really think about this. She didn't pursue it legally because it would have ended her career. Of course, this isn't an industry-wide problem. Then again, perhaps it is. These stories seem outlandish, but almost everything inside Hollywood is outlandish. I've met and worked with some of these uncouth individuals over the years and can see the overwhelming lack of respect they have toward others. An inflated ego and rail upon rail of cocaine takes some individuals outside the realms of reality. The studios and networks do take this seriously, but I don't know how much actually gets reported to the authorities. I'm under the impression that many instances don't actually get reported, partly due to the amount of financial responsibilities are often at stake, as well as based on the stories women have shared with me. Even as a man, I have been approached inappropriately by both men and women in the workplace with false promises of career advancement without recourse. Thank you very much. I'll take the 0. But today, in the age of the Me Too and Time's Up movements in full motion, what does all of this mean? And since Me Too has gained traction in the public consciousness, it seems almost daily someone else is being accused of bad behavior. You have Harvey Weinstein, which has been accused by dozens of women of varying degrees of abuse, including allegations of assault, false imprisonment, sex trafficking, and rape, and to add insult to injury, treated some of this behavior as standard practice of doing business, applying his position of power with false offerings of a potential role in a film production as a tool to lure women in. And as we know, he isn't the only one. The common thread of these stories seems to be that the women and men who fell victim to this behavior initially didn't share their stories out of fear of losing their jobs, in some cases being blacklisted. And in the case of my friend, her own intellectual property has been held hostage as an intimidation tactic, most likely to keep her quiet. But then what happens next? Legal recourse? Smear campaigns? How about a fucking apology for starters? And that seems to be the one thing that hasn't happened too often. Act like a human being and show some decency. Leave your ego at the door, grow a set, and apologize. By no means is this a way to justify assault of any type, but in an industry with predators around so many corners, as well as an ever-obvious absence of clear standards of what levels of bad conduct should be acceptable, the question remains, when is enough assault, physical and emotional, truly enough? Right now, there's a high level of uncertainty from the Me Too and Time's Up movements on how to evaluate alleged misconduct. What is that line not to be crossed, and what are the consequences when the threshold has been stepped upon? Each event and those involved has varying degrees of misbehavior and wrongdoing in their actions and motives. And then comes the questions of what efforts of the accused, if any, on commitments to acknowledge their actions, acknowledge the consequences of those actions, and what steps have been done to make things better. There has to be some effort to demonstrate a change in attitude. And this change in attitude must be allowed, or things will not change in our industry, or in any industry for that matter. Although it has been illegal for almost 40 years to hire and fire based on acceptance of sexual advances on their employees, it's obviously still going on. And when looking at today's political climate in American politics, this type of behavior is often downplayed, setting a low example for others to follow. Do all that you can to protect yourself. Sometimes uncouth individuals in power positions take it upon themselves to behave inappropriately. Not all incidents are reported. Remember, your well-being and security requires vigilance on your part. Be smart, be safe. One more thing. As part of the new Hollywood generation, others just like you are asking the same questions of themselves. You are not alone. We're all in it together. If you enjoyed the content, please subscribe and click on the bell to know when we have more for you. And more episodes are coming. Please share with someone you know who may find what we spoke about today beneficial. Like if you like what you see, dislike if you don't. And let us hear from you. Are you going to use what we discussed today? Yes or no? Let us know in the comments below. Please consider what I offered you today and consider what your role is as a new generation of content creators. And feel free to take advantage of other members in the new Hollywood generation community. We're all here to grow together and to help one another. We have a strong group on Twitter. Come join the new Hollywood generation and meet some fellow filmmakers and content creators. As members of the new Hollywood generation, take the time to assess what your short-term and long-term goals are. Make your plan, take a breath, go for it. You can do it once you believe you can. Are you ready for the challenge? If you're looking for filmmaking for beginners, Filmmaking 101, and for some filmmaking tips on how to want to be a filmmaker, make sure to click on the subscribe button. Click that bell so you don't miss anything. Looking for how-to filmmaking essentials? Be sure to check out the videos in the playlist. New to film production? Start here. Think of this channel as a film crash course, filmmaking crash course, and an introduction to filmmaking entrepreneurship to build the skills needed well beyond just how to succeed Hollywood and beyond whatever discussions other how-to film school, how-to indie filmmaking in general, how-to film industry channels just don't talk about. The whys you truly need to know to help you grow as a thought leader in life, the entertainment industry, and how it applies as part of the new Hollywood generation is in this video series and in the Pollyanna's tear-soaked Battlefields of Hollywood, a survival guide against the cynicism and the hypocritical series of books, links below. Remember, preparation is the key to you and your project's success. Ready?